I just finished saying that the RGB10 Max was my favorite retro handheld, and bam, Powkiddy drops an RGB10 Max 2. But without a chip upgrade from the previous model, is this device worth it? Or is it too late given the upcoming handhelds planned for 2022? Well, I've been using the RGB10 Max 2 as my main retro handheld for the last month, and I'm here to share my thoughts about this device. We'll take a look at the upgrades and hardware of the RGB10 Max 2 compared to the previous RGB10 Max, talk about the firmware for this device, and get you set up with RetroOz. I also want to talk about a big flaw that this device brings to light within the retro handheld community, and then we'll wrap it up with my overall thoughts of the RGB10 Max 2 as a retro handheld. If you're not subscribed, now's the time to do it, and we'll dive right in. It finally feels as if Powkiddy is stepping up their retro handheld game. The RGB10 Max was great despite its flaws, and the RGB10 Max 2 feels like a whole fresh take on the model. The RGB10 Max 2 falls right into your hands and feels natural to hold. Just look at those ergonomics. The D-pad, Switch-style analog sticks, A, B, X, and Y buttons all feel great as well. In my last look at the RGB10 Max review, I complained about the 4 start select buttons, and while they're still there, the buttons at least feel a little bit better when you press them. Let's take a look at the top of this device, and whoa! Stacked triggers? It's like Powkiddy is actually listening to the community. And the triggers feel pretty good too. The L2 and R2 are a little bit stiff, but L1 and R1 are nice and clicky. Comparing the feel of the device, the RGB10 Max has a rubber feeling shell, and the RGB10 Max 2 has a smooth plastic. I think overall the smooth plastic feels a bit better, and if you look at the back of my RGB10, you can kind of see some cuts in it just from, wear and tear. I do sort of wish that the RGB10 Max 2 could have come in highlighter orange, but the white is pretty sleek. The RGB10 Max had some light bleed and screen brightness was a bit lacking, but that has also been fixed with this new RGB10 Max 2. All in all, Powkiddy really hit a home run so far. Note that I said so far, because there is one thing that I can't not talk about, and it happens as soon as you turn on your RGB10 Max 2 for the first time. Yeah, what the f*** is that? The EmuElec logo looks like it's been modified to look a whole lot like a fairly well-known adults-only website logo. But the reference is minor, let's move on. We've got thousands of games, awkwardly suggestive images on each of these emulator banners, and holy that's right, there's literally a banner that suggests that there's something quite naughty on this device. Upon further testing, for science, there doesn't seem to be any It's random internet TV streams, but come on, this is a bit much. Apparently this got enough attention online that Powkiddy says that they've removed it from future shipments, but who knows when that next batch is. If you order this device, expect it to have this. Of course, this can be easily corrected and you could just change the theme, and we'll do that here. Other than that, the SD card is actually one of the best preloaded cards I've seen, at least game-wise. The EmuElec firmware that comes prepackaged also remaps Emulation Station and RetroArch to work out of the box, and that alone is a huge convenience. One of the reasons I waited a while for this review video is because at first, the button mapping for custom firmwares was not correct. The main button mapping issue is the analog sticks, which on the RGB10 Max 2 are reversed compared to the RGB10 Max. With the latest release of RetroOz, which at the time of this video is 0.52 beta, includes a fix for these issues. This takes a little bit of work, but if you follow me, we'll breeze right through it. I recommend a fresh microSD card that's at least 64 gigabytes. You can head to the Odroid forum using the link in the description of this video and download the smaller RetroOz work in progress 0.51, it should be around 2.4 gigabytes. While that's downloading, we're also going to go into the depths of this forum to look at the 0.52 beta update file. You can click the link in the description of this video to go straight to it. And we're going to download this as well. Put the SD card into your computer and open Boolean Etcher. Inside of Boolean Etcher, choose Flash from File and select the larger 2.4 GB file that you downloaded earlier. Select your micro SD card. Hit Flash. Once this is done, eject the drives and put the micro SD into your RGB10 Max 2. Let the setup complete, and when it reboots, we've got our RetroOz custom firmware installed. Except for one thing, the button mapping still isn't correct. We're going to turn off the device, put the micro SD card back into your computer, and open the ROMs drive. In the ROMs drive, find the ports folder. Unzip the RetroOz update, and take the folder and the .sh file and drag them into the root of the ports folder. Once the transfer is done, eject your SD card and put it back into your RGB10 Max, and boot it back up. Now we need to actually start the update. Go into the ports section, and you'll see there's an update-wip-.52.sh file. Navigate down to it, and hit A. Let the update run, and once it boots back up, well, the mapping isn't quite fixed yet. That's because there's one last step. Go to the Firmware Options section, then Device, and you'll notice that there are 4 RGB10 Max options, and 2 of them are for the RGB10 Max 2. Select the configuration you want. Let the script run, and you'll notice it shows logs for remapping controls for Emulation Station, RetroArch, Moonlight, and even the Super Mario 64 port. It'll reboot by itself, and we're done. All of the analog stick mapping should be correct now. Go ahead and get your ROMs and ports transferred over. You may still need to remap buttons on other ports, but this should give you a pretty big head start. I'm so glad that the community can keep up with these devices, but really this is something that needs more attention and came to light for me with the release of the RGB10 Max 2. Powkiddy delivered on bringing great updates to the RGB10 Max 2, but they don't control the software. They're relying on the retro handheld community. If companies like Powkiddy want to increase the quality of their devices even more, they would partner with the community to not only get feedback, but maybe feed some of their profits back into the community and the developers that actually make the software for these devices work. Or at the very least, give these developers some documentation so that they understand how these devices are going to work and can prepare their software for these updates. When I first got the RGB10 Max 2, the built-in EmuElec modifications threw me off. You know, the logo and we won't bring it up again. And I immediately popped in my RGB10 Max 1 SD card assuming it's going to work. But the button mapping was off for the main thing I wanted to play, Super Mario 64 port. Sure, I could have gone through and tried to figure out the right button mapping, but I just wanted to dive into gaming. I used the included firmware and patiently searched every so often for RetroOz updates. It's not to put fault on the maintainers of RetroOz or any other firmware, they're doing fantastic. This firmware isn't even technically fully supported, it's made for the Odroid Go Advance, and we're just lucky to have RetroOz updates that support these other devices. But imagine if Powkiddy had been in close contact with developers of these custom firmwares. They could have partnered to ensure day one support of custom firmware for new retro handhelds. Powkiddy is distributing these devices preloaded with firmware like EmuElec, and they could easily work directly with EmuElec and get a higher quality image, one that doesn't have questionable logos and section banners. This really sheds light on how community-driven the retro handheld world is, and how companies that manufacture these devices aren't doing right by these hardworking developers or the community. It'd be awesome to see Powkiddy and other retro handheld companies build an actual relationship with the community. The benefits would help expand the community, drive an even higher quality of software, and help companies like Powkiddy sell even more devices. Really, everyone wins. So in the spirit of helping developers, I'm leaving links to EmuElec's GitHub so that you can support the developer and community working on EmuElec. If the developer for RetroOz has a donation link, let me know and I'll gladly add it to the description. The work on both these firmwares for the RGB10 Max and RGB10 Max 2 is amazing, and it's what helps makes these devices so much fun to use. So I'll end my software rant before wrapping up the video with a final thought. Hardware and software tuned to each other can really drive this retro handheld community to the next level of quality, and here's hoping to 2022 bringing retro handhelds created in tandem with these great firmware developers. Alright, let's wrap things up. Simply put, this device is amazing. It's without a doubt the new retro handheld to rule them all for me. The improvements on this device can really be seen all around. But should you upgrade to an RGB10 Max 2 if you already have the previous one? Honestly, I'd consider it if you're in the market for an upgrade. There are definitely more powerful devices coming soon, but if you're looking for a budget-friendly device that can handle systems up to PS1 extremely well, some N64, and some Dreamcast, this is certainly the device for you. Like I did mention in my rant, there is a lag between the hardware for retro handhelds and the support from the software, so a huge benefit is that the RGB10 Max has already reached that point where it's got great support through the firmware options already out there. The improvements are great, and the gaming experience overall is dramatically improved by the better ergonomics of the shell and the stacked trigger buttons. This should be your retro handheld for quite some time if you were to choose to upgrade. Maybe you can give your original RGB10 Max 2 to a friend for the holidays and get them into retro handhelds. It's still a solid device. Which also means that as a first-time buy, I would also definitely recommend it. The screen size is fantastic, especially for Super Mario 64 port, widescreen Dreamcast games, and Game Boy Advance. I'd say this device isn't for you if you're really happy with the device you have, or you're holding out for a more powerful retro handheld in 2022. Well, that'll do it. Thanks for sticking around for my rant. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Did you get the RGB10 Max 2? Was it your first handheld or was it an upgrade? What do you think about Powkiddy and other device makers interfacing with the community more? Consider donating to the people that make these devices amazingly simple to use. Also consider throwing a like on this video or a dislike if you didn't like it. Subscribe to keep up with new videos, because there's more on the way, and I'll catch you in the next video.